an incredible woman with so many gifts and talents. And if you think of the idea of being a creative, she emulates creativity in makeup, in photography, in business, in sketching, in art. She is just someone who allows herself to work on things on the side and work in business and just do all these things. And at the same time, she's such an encouragement to the people around her, and she really lifts people up. And so today you are very honored to have her speak and share her authentic voice and her story. So thank you, Linda, so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. This is so exciting.
Yay. Okay, so let's just go back to Linda when Linda was just a young girl. What did that look like for you? What were some of the experiences that really impacted your life when you were younger?
For sure. Wow. That's like a very big and broad question. When you're younger, there's like moments that you remember and they come in and out and that sort of thing. But I think that some of the earliest memories that I have was probably our time spent in the UK. Just a little bit of background. Like I was born in Ghana in West Africa, and I left before I was 2 years old. And then at the time my parents were in Israel. My dad was doing his PhD there. And so my grandma raised me the first couple of years of my life, and then they shipped me off to East Israel to be with my parents. And from there we moved to UK. And so a lot of like my primary school experiences were there. And those probably are the years that probably have shaped me the most now that I look back, just because a lot of people, when I tell them like the kind of the background story, they say, oh my gosh, you're so well traveled. And I was like, does it really count? Because I was a kid, I just went where my parents went. But I think that the big piece in that it's made me a very adaptable person. And so I'm able to easily adapt to different environments, different situations very quickly, because it's literally having to move from one school to another or one environment to another and adjust and be able to move. And moving is not an easy thing. And I think it's something that I took for granted as a child, because you, like I said, you go where your parents go, and you don't have as many stakes in the game. It's not like you're at an age where you can go out and explore. So a lot of people ask me, what was the UK? All I remember is the nostalgia of it. I remember having family and friends around. But I don't know anything about getting on the bus and hanging out here with these friends or whatever. It was really just very family oriented and just that feeling of home. And so I would say that experience for me transitioning really shaped me adaptability wise. And so I'm able to pivot quite easily in environments. And yeah, it's been good for that. I think looking back, that's one thing that I would say has been big.
Love that. And that's one of my favorite words is pivoting. And I think as
Yeah.
people are watching this, they're going to see these common threads of people that step out. It's being able to pivot and being able to adapt and adjust. So what were some of the things when you were little that you wanted to be or you wanted to do?
I don't think I ever had a concrete idea of what I wanted to be, but I just remembered really being fascinated with performing arts. I loved performance and performing arts. And I didn't even realize it at the time, really, that's what it was. But I remember like I was always in a choir, or I was always there was a play going on. I was always a part of a play. And I just remember moments where like they would do, like in our primary school in London, we would do like The Wizard of Oz was one of the plays that we did. And I remember the casting for the play, and I wanted to be like the good witch so bad. They didn't cast me as the good witch. They cast me as a poppy. But I just remember just feeling like a ways, like how dare they? I should have been the good witch. And yeah, I just remember just having a passion for just like performance and singing. And I remember I went to a Christian private school growing up in the UK, and so St. Matthias. And I just remember there was a time that we had like mass or church service, and we went, and there was this girl, and she came like from one of the higher grades, and she just came and she sang Amazing Grace. And I just thought it was the most fascinating thing ever. And I just remember, I want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be able to like sing like that. And I wanted to be able to like the feeling that you get from that sort of thing. And so I think that there were definitely these pulses and tides of, I really just want to like be able to like pour that kind of beauty back into the world and give people that feeling that I got off of these sorts of experiences. So I think performance for sure, like collectively, just like performing arts and drama and theater. I love theater. I think that this is one of those common threads for like a lot of people now, like when they speak a lot or they're in these areas where they're encouraging a lot, they say, oh, I was the kid that they always said talked too much. Like I was that kid. And like I remember one time going into school, and this is like in my very primary years, and not even, it wouldn't even be the equivalent of, I think, grade one yet, maybe like kindergarten or something like the UK. And I remember getting a certificate. And the certificate said on it chatterbox. And I don't know, like now looking back, I don't know if like I should feel a ways about it. I got in trouble for it. Like when I got home, because I was just like, why are you in school talking? You should be like focusing on talking. Like your parentals don't see it as like a good thing, but it was a thing, right?
I loved what you said about pouring beauty into the world. I think that's just such a, like, it could be a really nice quote. So as you've been growing in who you are and what makes you unique and what makes you, what are some of the things that you've stepped into?
I think very generally my creativity, but in my household, it wasn't really something that was like embraced as much. It was very much like this sort of like, we're science people. We follow the science track. My dad's a chemical engineer. My mom's a nurse. Like we're science people. This is what we do. And I think that that's another thing that like, even when we talk about legacy and what we leave for our kids and our descendants and stuff, like my grandfather left us a legacy of faith. He was a pastor. And then he also left us this legacy of education. And I think that's a legacy that's definitely been passed down to us, like me, my sisters, my cousins. I look at them and I just see like how they're showing up. And very much so see that science piece in myself because I'm a nerd at heart. But definitely I reached a crossroads in my life where it was like, okay, this is cool. I can do this. And actually for a very long time, my passion was actually to go into medicine. And so that was the track that I was following. And I was very excited. I thought, oh, I really want to go into pediatrics. I love children. And then I realized at some point that I just can't bear to see children suffering in that way. And so I really had to think about, is this a space in which I can impact change in a way that's going to be healthy for me and sustainable for me? And then I pivoted and I was like, okay, I've already done all my science courses and I'm going down this track already and I'm getting ready to write my MCAT. So like maybe we can pivot and figure out like, maybe if not this track, maybe can we look into more the psych track, psychiatry, maybe. And so life happened, a series of events happened in life. And it just was the thing where I just wasn't in the right space, headspace, heart space to really go down the path. But then also there was this part of me that I'd neglected for so long, which was my creative side. And I had been so, one track and focused on this dream to med that I totally neglected that. I would draw and hide it. I would like I was a closet artist for a very long time just because it wasn't something that was like celebrated or fostered within our home. And it's not even that it was necessarily blatantly ever said that you can't do the arts, but it was, what are you going to do with the arts? You know what I mean? Like, where is it really going to take you? It's not practical. And so me, I just went with the flow and just did it because it was just like, it was enjoyable to me. Like I loved chemistry. It's not like it was something that was painful for me. I was just like, yeah, I could do it. You know what I mean? But then when you reach a point where you see your peers are not just doing it, but they love what they're doing, that can become very demoralizing because you see how much they love it and you just don't love it like that. There's something that you love more that you've not explored. And then you see those who are doing the thing that you should be doing. And then you feel this sense of this grit and feeling it within you that it's just like, that's what I should be doing, but you don't have the courage to do it quite yet. So then I switched into engineering and then I did a few years of engineering. I figured, hey, like just knock out this degree. And after that, I'll actually have a job and I won't be in complete and utter debt when I go to med school. I just, again, found myself in a place where people were not just there as a means to an end. They were doing it and they were loving it. And these 3-hour worth mechanics problems that you start and you end up getting the wrong answer by like point whatever decimal. And I was like, I don't love it like this. Like, I don't love it like this. And so I got to a point where I was like, okay, maybe I need to transition again. And by this point, I'd already switched into a second program. So then I was like, let's really take a step back and see what is it that I really want and how do I want to finish out my uni career and with a bang. So I decided to take a year off. And that was probably the most painful year for me because it was this thing of, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And this year is like a waste year. And I got myself so worked up about it. But that was also the most beautiful year for me in the sense that I really transitioned into my creative mind and my creative space. And my mom had a little boutique in Calgary several years back. And so I started doing hair out of there. I was doing like hair extensions and taking clients out of there. And so in that time, I really just wanted to put together like a catalog of all the different like hairstyles I did and like makeup. I said, okay. And I went to Best Buy and I went and got me like a little dinky, like DSLR, like entry level camera. And I started like shooting shots and I called my best friend up and I told her, come on over. I made a wig for you and got her all dolled up and did a full on photo shoot. Like I had purchased these like umbrella lights from the camera store in TD Square. And it was like a full on production from start to finish. And I was really amazed at how the photos turned out. Now looking back, I'm just like, oh my God, those were horrible. But like, they were great for, I think, beginner, but they were horrible adorable. But yeah, like at the time, I think that was the first time that I was just like, wow, like this comes very naturally to me. This is something that I could like really do. And so that sort of was the birthplace of me transitioning and really entering my creative mind and my creative space, and took that year off. And then I extended it by another half year because I think they let you take two before they like bump you out of the university. So then I took another half year, and then I just really delved into my creativity. And that was pretty much when Diabion Beauty was born. And when it was first born, it was just providing services for hair and makeup. And then I added photography. I totally fell in love with it.
That's so good. There's so many people that can relate with I think sometimes when you grow up a certain way and you have this like outlook on life, like if everyone is into science and everyone is into these
Yeah.
things, you learn to appreciate and love it, and it is a part of you. But it's very easy to let, like you said, the creative side just fall to the side. And so
Yeah,
taking
for
that time
sure.
to be still, I think is so important for people to really discover what they're saying and not all the other noise from all the other people around them. And there can be
For
good, it could be good
sure.
noise.
Thank you. Exactly. And so now what I say, I know I started this out by saying my grandfather left us this legacy of faith and education and science. But what I now say is that my grandfather left us a legacy of faith and excellence. And when I look at my cousins and myself, we are very diligent and very intentional about the way that we show up. And I've reframed the narrative so that I still find myself within that legacy without tainting it.
Yeah, that's really important in life, because I think in the beginning, when you're finding your voice and you're figuring out who you are, you do emulate the
Mm,
people around you and you
sure.
live in that space. And then you step out of that and you take those things with you, but now you make it your
Your
legacy,
own.
your lead.
Yeah, exactly.
With your brand now, you have so many things that you do, but with your beauty and the things that you do for people, what is the feeling and the legacy that you want to leave for people?
For sure. When I think about the legacy that I want to lead, I know I want to lead as one of kindness, of compassion. And I think that those are the core things that I really want to impart on the people around me, the next generation, and my children. That's the biggest thing for me. When I did the restructuring. Like I obviously had Diavion Beauty, which, like I said, when I first started, it was simply just offering services for hair, makeup, and photography. But it was really about living what I believed, and got to a point where I was just like, okay, this is now transitioned into now when I actually have people in my seat, when we're doing the hair and the makeup and the photography, like how are women opening up to me? What are the conversations that we're having? How am I meeting them where they are? And so it became this like huge therapeutic thing where I was gaining a lot of strength from the experiences that they were having in their own lives. And we were sharing back and forth experiences. And so it became so much more profound than just hair and makeup. And then it caused me to really take a deeper look at what Diavion Beauty was. Like, was I really living the brand that I was creating? And so I had to take a huge pause from Diavion Beauty because I had to do my own little personal internal work, soul work, and make sure that I was showing up in the right light and actually being able to pour properly into the people around me. And I think that anytime that you're an encourager, and I'll say that I know that you're definitely an encourager, and I know that I'm an encourager too. We want to see people win, we want to see people thriving, and we want to pay forward our experiences. And so, yeah, I had to pause the whole thing. There was probably a year and a half where I wasn't really in operation because I was doing a lot of the soul work. Because I was like, yeah, sometimes it's so much easier for us to say, you got to do this and you got to do that, and you've got to love yourself, and you've got to show up for yourself, and you've got to advocate for yourself, and you've got to be great, and you're beautiful, and you're lovely, and you're this. And we have so many great and powerful words to impart on other people. But then when we look at our own lives, we wonder, are we loving ourselves? Are we being great? Are we doing all of the things that we so easily tell others to do? And the double-edged sort of experience of encouraging is when we're encouraging and edifying people in that very moment, it's not because we have it figured out. In that moment that we're encouraging people, we're also encouraging ourselves. So it's a two-way exchange, which is really beautiful. And so in those moments, it allows us a nugget to take away and really reflect on and say, okay, am I really showing up in these ways? It's because it's something that my soul needs. My soul needs to show up for herself. My soul needs to advocate for herself. My soul needs to know that she's beautiful. And so I just didn't want to be a hypocrite in my business. And you go through life experiences and you don't show up as your best self, or you go through insecurities and stuff like that. And so I had to really do some deep dive internal work and really say, okay, am I pouring out of a clean vessel, because
Yeah.
it's really about the pour out. And at that time, there was just so much going on that I don't really think that I was. And then that pulled me into a whole nother level of understanding and revelation in my faith, because I became so overly vigilant about the way that I was showing up that I was starting to micromanage the plan that God had for my life. And that's the crazy thing, is that sometimes we're so concerned about getting it right and doing it the right way. And I'm not ready, and I'm not going to because I'm not ready. And on the faith side of things too, it was a very crucial time for me to really get it together and also really open my heart and my mind up to what plan was for my life, but not necessarily the step by step of what the plan looked like. And so I became very ultra vigilant about that, rather as to how am I showing up. And so I would hear all of these sort of transformative stories of like women and talking about their why, and like how they don't know what they would have done without their kids, or it's their kids that help them to keep going. And I was just like, dang, what do I got? Like, I have no kids. Like, no, for real, I got no kids. What am I really fighting for? What am I showing up every day for? Because it's so much easier for us to show up for somebody else than it is for ourselves a lot of the time. And so I think about it as, I don't have any kids yet, but when I have children, what is it that I want to be able to impart on them? And then to take that a level further, how do I want to impart those things? Do I want to be one of those parents that just says, you must do this because therefore? Or am I going to be one of those parents that says, I'm saying this because I know what it's like. I've lived that life, and so I know what it's like. And so I'm very intentional about the way that I show up and live, because I know that I can never tell my children to follow their dreams if I didn't follow mine. Like, I can never tell my kids do this, that, and the next if I didn't go through the tough work to do it. And even kids aside, right? Like, we go through these experiences in life, like I said, to pay them forward. But when we're going through seasons of intense pressure, intense sort of, it feels like intense pain, right? I was going through some rough times. And I think that the revelation was a very absurd picture. It was literally trying to fit a watermelon into a small keyhole. Do you understand the immense force it would take to even crush the watermelon for even like an ounce of it to go through, splash through the keyhole? And I think in that time of my life, it was this sort of revelation that like sometimes we go through seasons where it needs to download into us very quickly, a lot, very quickly. And in order to do that, we go through intense pressure and intense pain, because the fullness of time isn't 10 years down the road. For the fullness of time is literally around the corner. And there's something that's about to happen that you need this information and that quick download and that quick discomfort and that pressure in order to show up the way that you need to in that moment to impact or to affect change, whatever that looks like. And it might not be any grand thing. It might be as simple as a smile, or it might be as simple as a small conversation. But you can't speak to people's souls when you haven't experienced the pain of it, the pressure of it. It hits different. It's one thing for me to talk to you about war from a very historical perspective, or what I've learned about it or researched about it or Googled about it. But if I've not ever experienced it, I don't know the feelings associated with it. It hits different. It transforms lives in a different way. And so I think that it's caused me to look at pain and suffering very differently. Whereas sometimes I feel like there's seasons I go through and I'm just like, oh my God, bad things are always happening to me. What's going on? It literally seems like a series of unfortunate events in life. And it's just, what the heck is going on? But then when you can contextualize it and just really say, I'm going to focus on the blessings and not my problems, and understanding that something is happening behind the scenes that I don't see, but in hindsight, it's all going to make sense. And then when you go through the journey of life and you run into that little girl that needs to hear something that you have to say, or you know what I mean, that friend that really needs the word that you need, or they're about to go through an experience that if you don't go through this experience right now, you won't have the words for them, you won't have the encouragement for them. It shifts your perspective on life and experiencing it and how we experiencing it, and really that our experiences are not for us alone. They're for the benefit of all of us. And so we live not for ourselves, but we live for service, and we live for everybody around us, and so that we can pay those experiences forward so that we don't have to step on the same landmines and that other people don't, because we only have this life to live. We can't hope to figure things out the hard way on every level. We have to take somebody else's L and use it in our lives, and vice versa. Share some of our L's so that somebody else can cross that bridge a little bit easier.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think that there's just so many layers to all of it, but just being thankful for the experiences that we're moving through for sure.
Yeah, and that perspective I think is so important, because it's really easy to look at hard times and think that, why is this happening to me, or it's only you, or but
Yeah.
instead to
Yeah.
change your perspective on it, to allow it to shape you and mold you and help you grow. I think that's so powerful. And if people can get that, it will launch them into their purpose and into walking in
Absolutely.
that purpose. Definitely people need to hear that. And something that I've learned in the last year, especially, is just, it's almost like life keeps throwing the same things at you until you learn the lesson. You just keep coming up against this wall. And then one day you're like, okay, I'm done.
I'm done. I'm ready to get it. Like,
yeah, I can't hit this wall anymore.
I'm ready to pass this test.
Totally. And so if you think about it like a challenge and like a test, and like you're growing and you're moving, it makes it a lot more exciting instead of going in circles.
For sure. I think that in every season, like we get little glimpses of the vision, and most of the time, like we want it all now. We want to know where the destination is, what the purpose is, and we want to know what it is that we're called for this life, and how it's all going to play out, because then we can do the thing.
Yeah.
I think our vision is too small, and if we really saw what the thing was, we wouldn't do it. We wouldn't have the strength for it.
When you go back to what you were saying about taking that time, taking that year and a half off to just get off and reevaluate the vehicle that you're in.
Yes, I love that. No, for sure. Reevaluate the vehicle that you're in. You're just trying to drive a tractor on a farm tractor on a highway.
I really feel like people are going to get a lot out of your authenticity. And I think one of the big messages that I really want people to get a hold of is that being authentic and sharing your story and your experience does encourage other people. And even though you may think that it is nothing, it is so powerful for people to understand that they're not alone. And I love that you shared that. And I know that you encourage a lot of people. So be encouraged.
Thank you. Yeah. When we talk about what the legacy of compassion and kindness and being able to meet people where they are has been really paramount for me within my business, and being able to edify women and encourage women and connect them with the divine beauty that they have within. And yeah, it's been a really beautiful journey.
Yeah, for sure. And that kind of goes back to the authenticity piece too, is I've always found the people that impact me the most are the people that are real and genuine. You can be the most polished, beautiful speaker, but it's only goes so far. It only goes so deep, because it just doesn't connect. So the more work you do, the more your words actually impact people.
Yeah. And I think the big part of it was like in those times where I really struggled in life, and those times where like I had so many questions, I thought in my own mind and my own power that I was doing all the right things by my standards. I think it's important sometimes for us to really have those pieces reinforced, because sometimes, depending on what your background is or what you're used to hearing or used to accepting, you think that you get used to the struggle, and you think that the struggle is life, and the struggle is not life. Struggle is a series of lessons that you need to learn to elevate you to the next level, and then you get another series of lessons that sometimes are more challenging than the next, and you build your grit, right? You build your grit and you build up your bearings to be able to take on new and exciting, and sometimes not so exciting and painful and grimy things in life, right? And even in the moments when, like, I count them as painful moments in my life, where I look back and I said, I really struggled in this time. But when you encounter just the one person, not like a multitude, not like a whole bunch, just the one person that you just are able to speak life into their situation and speak from a place of pain and touch them in a way that they are desperately needing to be touched. You can look back at your experiences and say, this hurt like heck. But if I were to choose whether to go through it again or to navigate it in a different way, I would do it all over again, just that way, just the way that it happened, as painful as it was. I would go through it. When you see how your experiences can transform people's lives, people's mindsets, these are things that you can't put a price tag on at all, because legit, you're really propelling people into their own purpose. doesn't mean you're giving them the cheat code to purpose, because it's different for all of us. I can't tell you what your purpose is. Only you can figure that out. But what I can do is I can give you a roadmap of how I've navigated my own. I'm still figuring out my own. It's not a destination. It's something that we're always evolving through. But if I can pay forward my experiences to you and say, hey, girl, I went through this. It's not exactly what you went through, but these are the feelings that I felt. These are the experiences that I went through. These are the thoughts that plagued me. These are the demons that I wrestled with. Maybe something within what I'm saying resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
And when that thing clicks and resonates, it's like another piece of the puzzle for you to start crafting out different facets of your own purpose. And that's what it is. It's building blocks and it's puzzle pieces.
I think when we're pushing so hard and trying to make things connect and trying to make things click, that's when you know you're not in it. It's when you can be like, oh, how did this happen? How did this happen? These things just start to come and align because you're walking. And I really think that purpose, I heard this somewhere recently, but it's not a destination. It's something that you walk in.
I think that the beautiful thing about the generation that we live in is we're in this modern day renaissance, right? People are really tapping into their skills and their talents. And we have our Michelangelos and our Da Vinci's, like people that are really coming out and connecting with their purpose and all of that. And so it's really beautiful that we're moving through this time. But those things take time to cultivate, right? Like it's layers and it's time spent in enriching yourself and brushing up on your skills. And then along the way, you're dropping gems and you're picking up gems and you're feeling the feels and you're going through the ebbs and flows. Not everything is rosy, but what you want is you want a legacy that is sustainable, where we're being legacy builders in this generation, which is beautiful. And if your heart is in the right place, and if you're building a legacy that is really to create impact, then it's important that it takes time to marinate and to cook and to bake, right? Because you want it to be sustainable. You want it to transcend generations. And if you want instant is satisfying the moment, but it doesn't reach far.
Mm-hmm. I love all of that. And I really hope people watching connect with this idea that it's a journey and you're not going to have it. Even watching all these interviews and hearing all these different people's stories, I hope it encourages you that we all have this walk to go through, and there's going to be times where you're on a mountain and times where you're in a valley, but you're still able to bring your purpose to those places.
There's no formula to this. Like, that's right. Just show up for yourself, show up for other people, live what you believe. And I think that part of it is a very divine gift, and I don't take it for granted. I love to connect with people on that level and just talk about what it is that they're passionate about, and start the conversation there. And then we weed through what the glorious potentials that this thing that you think is a tiny little seed could be. And then I get them nice and revved up and encouraged, and then send them on their way juiced up in my visionary hat, and then they go and seek a taskmaster who's gonna help them get it done. But yeah, I definitely inject the encouragement and the vision a lot more, and I offer whatever services I can from my toolkit to them, and then we move forward from there. So that's a large part of what it is the encouragement piece.
Love that. And in that, I can relate so much to you and how you operate. And I get it. And it was even nice just to hear you put it into a package. But I definitely think part of this is for that, for people to connect with the resources and the people that they need to take those next steps, whether it is you need someone that's going to help you the actual build your website, whether it's someone that's going to coach you, or that's the purpose. And to connect with Linda, like those of you who are like really seeking a vision and you have these ideas, but they're limited in your mind, someone like her is going to be able to expand on that and help you to see further down the road instead of what's right in front of you. And then, like she said, then find those people to give you like the framework to just actually do the thing. And so I encourage you, Linda, like how can they find you?
So you can definitely find me on social media. My main page is Linda_Boadi. So that's my personal. And then for Diabion Beauty, which is all about connecting women with the divine beauty within, you can find me at DBBeauty3.
Thank you so much for all of your encouragement and wisdom and authenticity. It was very
Thank you for having me. It's always great having a conversation with you.